Chapter 1. What's causing all this? Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to write this book of my life. This is a man who has been through the joys and disappointments of life, the highs and lows, but I've had a direct approach in getting my general resolve and what I want in my life. I've seen everything that has happened throughout my lifetime. The book you are about ready to read is a book that is factual and straight from the horse's mouth. Some names may be altered to save them from scrutiny or harassment from any bottom feeder trolls, without any of the trolls' lies and garbage. I hope you all will enjoy getting your questions answered from the truth itself, so get your popcorn ready. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the man who's causing all this gorgeous George, Yarid. George walks out to a roar of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here tonight, in front of all of you. George says as he addresses the audience, he is interrupted by 12 women, a part of the FAM. Play with us, George. They all shout, sweating with anticipation of the gorgeous one's response. Ladies, please, my third leg is limited in action, George says as the audience explodes with laughter. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I will tell you the truth of my life and my success through the good times and bad. I will take you on a journey of thought, spirit, and life itself. George sits down at his chair. He starts to tell the story. Before I was born, God came to me and asked, do you want to be a man or a woman? And I said, I choose to be a man. I came to this world on July 16th, 1968. I call it the Immaculate Reception. Definitely without contraception, thank God. Needless to say, this was the day I was born. I came out of my mom's womb, weighing 7 pounds and 8 ounces. I was a very gorgeous baby. I came out to the song Bad to the Bone. When I came out of my mom's womb, I saw a strange man in a white coat. I think he was a doctor or something like that. I slapped the doctor across the face and I said, you son of a bitch, don't you ever look at me like that again. I guess you don't truly know that I am what's causing all this. So needless to say, I was the man even while I was in infant. So that was kind of like another good reason for no one to ever mess with me, because even as a baby I was cool and definitely bad to the bone, and my mother shouted out and said, that's my boy. Just like the 3 wise men for Jesus, they were the 3 wise women for Gigi. All 3 of these women play an intricate role in Gigi's growing and upbringing. The seamstress made a stocking cap for baby Gigi. Then came the secretary, her tight leather skirt. She proceeded to do some heavy dictation, if you catch my drift. Then the stewardess came out later on, and not only did she give Gigi a lollipop, but she also gave Gigi some breast milk because Gigi was about a fed baby. These 3 women not only helped shape me as a man, but were witnesses to mature baby with all his talents, and later seeing perhaps Gigi ruling the world if necessary. And much like Jesus, gorgeous George would grow to become an icon that many would talk about, and many would worship and love. Many adult women would leave Gigi toys and article of clothing to stimulate him at young impressionable age in single digits. These 3 wise women played an integral role in Gigi's early stages and throughout. A few months later, after gorgeous George was born into this world, he was baptized at the Second Presbyterian Church on North 5th Street, downtown Richmond, Virginia. At George's baptismal minister went ahead and put the holy water on gorgeous George's head. Gorgeous George let out a loud sound and he went coo. And of course, the congregation exploded with cheers and a round of applause. They were falling out of their seats because they knew what truly was causing all this at my young age. Then the minister said, yeah, he's got the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in him, all right. This caused the congregation to explode once again with pure laughter, joy, and tears. Joy at this baby's talents and sound he made. Could have been gas, but just the same it was special, after having holy water poured on him. And the pastor went on to explain, I gave him the power of the perfect comeback as he dumped the rest of the holy water on George's head. Everyone in the audience stood up and clapped. Gorgeous George Yarid was in the house and in the church. It was a symbol of great things yet to come. Perhaps baptismal of the leader, king, or perhaps even maybe a talk show host. All eyes are lifted with hope in anticipation of good things to come. In early life, Gorgeous George moved to a different house that he would later grow up in 1972 when he was 4 years old. The very day that they moved in, they were immediately hit by a hurricane. It was titled Hurricane Agnes, a mild tropical storm. I was so nervous, and I was rowing the canoe and asked my father if I was rowing it correct. He said, "You're doing fine, boy. Keep moving the oars in a circular motion." The water was going through the house. The house was flooded through the lower level. It just happened the day after we moved in the house. There was a creek in the back line in the woods, and it was a low area for flooding any time if heavy rains or hurricanes passed through. My dad was a chemist for the United States Tobacco Company, very good with his hand as he fixed television sets on the side and to fix electrical appliances. He was a master of many talents and an electrician as well. My father was a genius and spoke Italian and Arabic. My father and I shared the same name. I had a middle name, and he did. Later, I decided to do away with my middle name and use my dad's name, which was my name, but minus the middle name. He would make a chairwood desk and grandfather clock with his hands. My father was a genius in more ways than one. He was rough in exterior, but passionate and caring about his family and wanted the best for me. He later retired from the United States Tobacco Company in 1980. My mother was named Edith Shirley Redacted. She was a beautiful woman and watched over me as much as she could in my early years. In grade school, I was challenged by another kindergarten, challenged in a very unique way. One day, I was challenged by another kid to look up under a teacher's dress. That teacher's name was Miss Maroon. She had long dark hair, light tan skin, and when she was young, she looked at least in her mid-20s. Her laugh was joyous, yet she has a stern voice at times. On that day of the challenge, she was wearing a white dress with red polka dots and red high heels. She was what you would call definitely easy on the eyes, even for a premature perv at the young age of 4. So, not knowingly thinking out the consequences of what I was about to do, I took the challenge and proceeded to get behind the teacher and crawled up under her dress. The students busted up laughing, and at first she was confused about what was going on. I smelled her scent of a rosy perfume that smelled great and was a great smell that lingered. I grabbed her leg and started kissing them and rubbed her stockings. Then she jumped up and said, "What is going on?" Then she saw me. She said, "You are going to the principal's office now." I said, "I'm sorry, but Billy challenged me and I took the challenge. Must say you really smell great down there and I thought you would like it." I was a charmer at such a young age. She said, "George, go to the principal's office now." So straight to the principal's office I went. Came home and had a lot of explaining to do with my father as he was notified about my week of being expelled. So then came the long ear lashing that my dad gave. I had to tell my father about being expelled. "Boy, even though your actions should have not happened in school, I'm proud of you, but you can't do stuff like that in kindergarten. Wait till you get older before you do that. But I'm proud of you, and I taught you well to like women, and one day you'll be a Casanova like your dad is." So after that speech, I went into the fridge and stole the last Pabst Blue Ribbon. Old man told me, "Boy, did you drink the last beer?" I said after a loud belch, "I most certainly did, and was my first." The taste went down smooth and had a lot of hops and kick. Got tongue lashing for that, but the beer kind of put me at ease at the ripe age of 4 years old. I spent the whole week relaxing and watching all the 70s shows on the tube that week, like All in the Family, Sanford and Son, and Three's Company until the week of going back to school. Pure bummer when that Monday rolled around, but I had to write 100 times I will not peek under the teacher's dress ever again. Hell, it was worth it though. My grandma Adele Yarid lived with us, and she'd be waiting for me every afternoon when I came off the school bus. My grandma spoke four different languages: Arabic, English, French, and a mixed bag of other languages. She was educated and was great at cooking Arabic food and sewing and knitting clothes. My family was proud of their heritage, and I was proud of it as well, learning curse words from my dad, making sure to use them when they applied. One afternoon, while coming back from school, I opened the door and saw my grandma on the floor yelling and screaming that she needed help. I went straight to her and got her off the floor, placed her on the chair. She hurt her head, so I wrapped her up in an ice pack. I said, Nanny, are you all right? She said, yes, but she probably needs to go to the hospital. Hour later, Dad came home and rushed Granny to the hospital. He brought her back while Grandma was bandaged up and was given medicine to help her with the pain. Later on, the reality of my grandma going into a nursing home became more prevalent. Dad said we are going to have to put Grandma into a nursing home since we can't take care of her, and her mobility is getting worse. As time went on, Grandma got really sick, and so my dad said to me, Son, you know your grandma is really sick, so we gotta put her in nursing home, and I know you don't want her to go. No, I don't want Grandma to go to the nursing home. Then my dad said, well, we can't take care of her. You know your mom and I keep getting into arguments, and your mother just can't take care of her. So I said, well, I know. Hard as it was, Grandma was put in a nursing home, which wasn't a good faculty, the place where she placed in until she was placed and another facility. She lived about 6 years in two different nursing home facilities. With certain times back and forth, we saw her every Sunday afternoon after church by making sure she was being taken in until she later died on June 14th, 1981. She lived to the ripe old age of 88 years old. Meanwhile, my father and mother were in constant arguments. With every family, there is sometimes friction, and all marriages aren't perfect, but I knew mom and dad were constantly in deep seated arguments. My father and mother couldn't live together, and it got worse. One morning, my mom was packing her stuff, and I asked her, what are you doing? She told me, honey, I have to leave, and I'm coming back for you. Leave where? I got to go and get a divorce from your father. Mom, you can't leave. There's counselors that can work things out between you and dad. Things are to be made to be worked out between people who care about each other. I know even with your disagreements, the marriage is worth saving. She said, it can't be, but I'm coming back for you. At that moment, I felt abandonment, even though I knew my mom truly loved me. That night, I told my dad, and he flipped out. He was trying to get her to come back, but she wouldn't. My dad won custody over me and raised me. Mom had physiological issues and emotional trauma. Later found out she remarried. I would later on be reunited with her in Tennessee. Days in going to church at the Second Presbyterian Church, I would ring bells in the choir and go to Sunday school class. My Sunday school teacher was Patricia Cornwell, who was married to the associate pastor Charles Cornwell. This was later to be talked about because she would become interested in me in such a level in an interesting way. She was 28 years old, and I was the mere age of 14 years old. She took an impressionable attachment to me and kind of wanted me under her wing. Dare we say, Kuachu, Miss Robinson. Maybe in the same level of Mary Kay Letourneau, but I guess I wasn't that fortunate. She would ask me how all my grades in school, and I said fair to medium. She asked me how I would like for her to tutor me sometimes. She took an interest in me, and I kind of felt special. She would kind of rub my back and play with my hair, and showed a physical interest, and I was loving it. Though I know and told her a few times, what would your husband think if he knew you took this special interest in me? She said not to worry about him, that they are an open relationship, and she does what she wants. Little history on Patricia. She worked at the forensic department in North Carolina and wrote her very first book about television evangelist Billy Graham and his with Ruth Graham. She was fascinated with post mortem and wrote books directly about her dealings with her forensic lab and working in a morgue. Each Sunday, she made it enjoyable to go to Sunday school just by seeing what clothes she would wear. She would be touchy feely, and it felt good. One afternoon after church and Sunday school class, I came by to her apartment and watched her change in front of me in lighter amounts of clothing. Even though there was never any sex between us, it was enjoyable to spend time with her. I didn't feel like she took any liberties with me, and even though she was 14 years my senior and married, I didn't mind her advancements and encouraged her friendship with me. She had times when I wanted to hang out with her on certain Sundays couldn't because she was in the midst of writing the Ruth Graham book. Yes, readers, you're hearing that right. The mystery book writer was my Sunday school teacher, and not only that, but she was also attracted to yours truly, Woo. Not just picking your nose, which I often did, but also being picked out by gorgeous females. Like many other students picked by their teachers by their very attractive teachers. I was basically in the same situation, but sadly for me, it never resorted to sexual intercourse. As previously stated with her, after a few years, she moved and left the church and severed relations with Charles Cornwell. Later, to find out, she claimed she was a lesbian, and that blew my mind. I hope I didn't turn her that way, but nevertheless, it was an enjoyable time when she was living here. My dad later remarried to a woman named Lucy. Lucy was friends with Aunt Angela, both lived in Michigan. When my dad remarried, he married this woman, and Aunt Angela moved down as well. I couldn't stand my aunt or my stepmother. Both tried to cause issues with me and my father, and it got just a little bit out of hand. My dad decided to send me to a Boy Scouts camp, which I agreed to. I hated it so much I got into 8 fights. I won all 8 fights. I had a situation with a fat kid named Benjamin Redacted. He picked a fight with me at the archery range. It was therapeutic because I flipped his ass on the ground all over the floor. Needless to say, I parted with the Boy Scouts on a mutual departure agreement. My aunts Ava and Uncle Otto also were relatives that raised me when my dad was busy at work. Like previously stated, my dad retired as chemist in 1980 and worked on television and electronics on the side. Uncle Otto was a second father and used to take me to the duck pin bowling alley, and Aunt Ava was like a mother I didn't have at my young age. One night, Uncle Otto got drunk as a skunk and started singing through my recorder, "Let's get the fever tonight." He did a minute-and-a-half song, taking pots and pans and banging them together. It went like this: "Let's get the fever. Let's get the fever tonight. We will be drinking at all times of the day and do what we want with no responsibility. Though we will have a head of headache, so we will never get drunk again." Then the chorus, "Let's get the fever. Let's get the fever tonight." While he sung it, he took to drumsticks and banged loud on the pots and pans. It was hilarious, and he had no knowledge he did it the following day. Those were the days. My aunt Ava would always make sure when I visited her I had a full course meals, and man, could she cook. I liked her better and didn't care much for my other aunt Nigel.